which is on page 95. Last time we discussed the fact that a free people can't survive without religion. But you kind of have to ask yourself what specific religious principles or teachings are necessary in order for a free people to survive. And the founders were not apologetic in their beliefs. We're going to discuss a sensitive area today, and I want you young people to know that the requirement of this class is not for you to believe these things necessarily, although I'm assuming most of you do. The requirement is for you to understand that the founders believed them, and that these beliefs actually form the foundation for their beliefs about government. So we're going to discuss principle number 5 today, which says all things were created by God. Therefore, upon Him are all mankind are equally dependent, and to Him they are equally responsible. There was nothing more believed by the founders than the reality of a Creator. This is so prevalent in all of their writings. And if we don't teach this, we really are cheating young people when we talk about the history of the United States and where the founders got their good ideas. To the founders, the idea of a creator was a self-evident truth. Somebody tell me what a self-evident truth is.
It shows itself. You don't need other things to prove it.
It's so obvious, right? You don't need to sit around and debate it. You accept it. It's so obvious to the rational person. You accept it and you move on. You're not always mired in, well, is it or isn't it? And there are people today who don't necessarily think this is a self-evident truth. As a matter of fact, there are people who sit around and debate whether we really, not only whether there's a creator, but whether we really exist or not. Can you imagine that? Founders would say it is a self-evident truth. Now let's move on and build a government. They would also say that this idea of what is termed evolution really defies reason and experience. And this was John Locke. So we're going to try a little experiment today here, students, with you. I want to ask you this question. Have you ever talked to your brain? You ever talked to your brain, Katie? You have? That's good. You all talk to your brain? We're going to do a little brain talk today. And it kind of follows some of the thinking of John Locke. And I'll bridge that here after we're through. But I want you to talk to your brain. Are you ready to talk to your brain? Okay. Brain, given all the eons of time, all the millions and billions and trillions of years that have gone on, given the convulsions of nature, the freezing, the melting, the churning, the erupting, and everything that happens in nature, given all that time and all that activity, brain, will you accept the fact that out of all that came a watch? The freezing, the melting, the churning, and all of a sudden, bingo, out comes a watch. Have you told that to your brain? No, you got to talk to your brain now, folks. I want you to tell your brain that. Maybe you are. What's your brain saying?
That's not true.
You have a hard time getting your brain to accept that. It's like your brain saying what? Does not compute, right? Illogical, will not accept. Is that what your brain telling you? I want to ask you the question now. Why is your brain telling you that? This is not reasonable, this is not logical. Why? What does your brain know about this watch? It's really a product of what? Intelligent design and high precision engineering. Wouldn't you agree? Your brain says that. You can't just put a bunch of rocks and dirt and freezing and churning and put it in a tumbler and all of a sudden comes a watch. Your brain just won't accept that. How about something a little more complicated? Will your brain accept this? How about the human eye? More complicated than this watch. Any one of hundreds of little parts of this eye, something happens to it, and what happens? You're blind. Brain, out of all the millions and billions of years and the churning and the climbing out of the slime and all that stuff, came 2 human eyes. And your brain says, what? Does not compute, will not accept, right? Because your brain tells you this is a product of intelligent design and high precision engineering. What are we saying here, folks? With John Locke, what are we saying? We'll call this brain talk that we've just been over. Chance will not bring about a watch or a human eye because, as we said, it is a product of intelligent design. And so John Locke reached the conclusion that a person who rejects the being of a creator, in other words, perhaps, what would we call him today, an atheist, is irrational, meaning he hasn't talked to his brain lately. What do you think? Would you buy that? An atheist is irrational. What do you think? And that's what John Locke says. He just hasn't really spent time with this subject. Not only did Locke say that, or believe in the reality of a creator, he actually went one step further and said, everybody can know that there is a creator. How do you like that? Did you read that in your homework? Let's talk about that. Locke's formula. And this is actual formula. Now, if you notice, he's not going to quote Scripture here. I'm not going to quote anything out of the Bible. This is just kind of his own thinking. He was, of course, a Christian. He said, I exist, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum. What does that mean? That's Latin, meaning cogito. What does that mean? Cognitive. In other words, I can think, therefore I am. I am something. You see that? Now, as I said before, there are people who sit around, sometimes on a college campus, and you may meet some of those in your college years, who love to sit around and talk about, do we really exist? And if we're really not here, what is this? You know what some of them have determined? This is a dream. This is a dream. And if it's a dream, what's the next logical question? Who's dreaming it? Oh, you can just go on and on. I spent a lot of time thinking about this stuff. Existentialism and all that stuff. Founders would say, no, we'll lay the foundation with self-evident truths and move on. So, I exist, therefore I am. I am somebody. I am something. Do you agree with that? Okay. I am something. Then the next step, Locke says, is you can be assured that a something cannot come from a nothing. What do you think? If you're a something, could you just... No. A something cannot come from a nothing. And so there must be something that brought about all of us somethings, right? And since we're all a little different, the something that brought about all of us somethings must be more intelligent than all the somethings that He created, right? Is that logical? Okay. Must be all-knowing. Must be pretty intelligent. In other words, this something must be superior to everything He created. Else He wouldn't create, right? And in Anglo-Saxon, the word which means the ultimate good, the ultimate all-knowing good, is God. What do you think? Isn't that something? How John Locke did this? Did I quote Scripture here? No? Isn't that amazing? This is John Locke. And if any of you have, or if you have not read his essays on human understanding, it's marvelous the way he reasoned this. You see why the founders loved this so much? All right, so John Locke says this is a formula where everyone can know that there is a God. But he didn't stop there. He said not only can you know there is a God, you can know some of the attributes of this God, this ultimate good, this ultimate creator, the intelligent designer of the universe. So let's list some of those things. First of all, he says what? This ultimate good, or God, must be a what? Must be a cognitive. What does that mean? The ability to what? To reason, to think. Right? He must have that ability. Since those that He created, He gave that ability. He must have it. Does that make sense? Okay? And because His creations have the capacity to what? To have emotions, to have compassion, to feel for each other, to express love and so forth, He must have that ability too. He must have a tremendous sense of right and wrong. He must know what will hurt people and society and what will help people and society. Have you ever heard that before? What will hurt or help? Yeah. This is character building, right? And the ultimate good, or God, must have a highly refined sense of right and wrong. Well, what else did he say he must have? Since we're all on this earth, and some things that happen, we find a little humor in. It's a good thing, right? It'd be a pretty boring place if we didn't. So what must this ultimate good, or God, also have? A sense of humor. That interesting. Have you ever gone out and seen the beautiful sunset that we have here in our state? Stood on the rim of the Grand Canyon and observed that beautiful creation of nature? Been up in the mountains and seen the beauty that's there, and just marveled at how all the colors come together and so forth. What must then the Creator of all things be? A great artist. And John Locke, he basically says there's hundreds of things that you could name just like this, that perhaps are attributes of this ultimate something, the intelligent designer of the universe, what the Anglo-Saxons would call God. What do you think, folks?